What up, Naughty Steppers? It's Connor Whitmore here again with another review for you on the Nawtystep channel. And in today's video, I'm going to be talking about the 5th studio album from deadmau5, released on Ultra Records, 4x4 equals 12. Once again, this album came at a time of significant shifts for electronic music on many levels. And it seems like I've talked about him a decent amount this week without actually reviewing any of his music, but I have to mention Skrillex again, because just a couple months before 4x4 equals 12's early December release in 2010, Mr. Sonny Moore came through with arguably the most groundbreaking project to grace EDM this decade in Scary Monsters and Nice Sprites, which, funnily enough, was released on Joel Zimmerman, aka deadmau5's label, Mousetrap. Fast forward to 2012 at the 54th Grammy Awards, and it's Skrillex's project that wins Best Dance or Electronica Album over deadmau5's. And whilst it would be difficult to argue there's a single track on 4x4 equals 12 that was anywhere near as impactful as the Scary Monsters and Nice Sprites original has been, as whole projects, I think Zimmerman could lay claim to his one having much more album appeal than his protege's breakthrough collection. Not only did it seem wrong giving the award to Skrillex when just 6 of the tracks were his own, but it didn't really have much on the refined and well put together quality of 4x4 equals 12. It was Skrillex at his most rudimentary, a collection of outrageous ideas more than anything. Zimmerman's 5th full-length studio LP, arriving just over a year after its predecessor for lack of a better name, which gave an insight into his banger-making capabilities through thumping tracks such as Ghosts and Stuff, FML and Bot. But perhaps in anticipation of Skrillex's imminent success, having heard Scary Monsters and Nice Sprites whilst it was in the works, Zimmerman took that banger-centric ideal to new levels by infecting his own sound with it in 4x4 equals 12. Prior to this album, he had shown us how to masterfully craft the most reflective and thought-provoking of progressive house numbers, providing ebbs and flows through their development. There was a sense of completion to each track he produced. Yet, all of a sudden, he was applying that same formula not only to those more enduring cuts, but outright bangers as well, and on a much bigger scale than his previous albums. It kicks off in style with the tremendously simple, yet stunningly effective Some Chords, probably the most fitting title Zimmerman has ever come up with. However, even though built almost entirely on chord progressions, the construction of it is anything but as straightforward as that may suggest. A quite breathtaking, momentous feel to this tune, enabled by the expert synth layering and musical changes it embarks on throughout. But fundamentally, it's a seriously impactful, forceful banger that builds fantastically and deconstructs in the same manner. The gritty, insistent Sophie Needs a Ladder is an apt follow-up in that respect at track 2. Pounding electro house kind of music, gravelly in essence with an on-edge slant, thanks to the spiraling synths and Sophie's strained exclamatory vocals. Funny fact, Sophie actually stands for some other female interest. You also have the constant zip-like delivery of Cthulhu Sleeps, a gargantuan 10 minutes long, but which holds your attention from the first second to the last, or the fervent, chugging energy of A City in Florida, the electrified party vibe of Bad Selection. All of these songs had a well-rounded feel and obvious banger qualities, strengthening the understanding that with this LP, we were seeing a newly evolved deadmau5. Not forgetting, of course, the Wolfgang Gartner collaboration Animal Rights, arguably the biggest banger of the lot, with its infectious, Daft Punk-inspired main riff, punchy percussion and devilish groove. Mirror-like in its formulation in that it finishes pretty much exactly how it starts to the note, just the other way around. Pure symmetry. Once more, Zimmerman translating his track-building expertise into more emphatic, statement-making tracks and it worked wonders. And this is before I get into the darkest depths of the album with the dubstep experimentation on tracks 9 and 10. The other kind of banger on 4x4=12 with Raise Your Weapon and One Trick Pony respectively. Where undoubtedly the most obvious Skrillex influence is felt, he actually has production credits on the former, which starts off almost as a moody, somber 2.0 edition of his 2008 track I Remember alongside Cascade, but which breaks down drastically, almost folding in on itself when the dubstep arrives, bubbling under the surface in this glitchy, mechanical way. What I find most interesting about this track though is how Greta Svabo Beck's vocal delivery stays exactly the same in the dubstep section, which completely transforms the track, Beck sounding defeated as opposed to determined as she is at the start, powerfully hollow and vacant. Following that, you have the penultimate track One Trick Pony, a throbbing, pulsating tune that brings Sophie back into the frame, isolating the instrumental at important moments to show off its gripping rhythm. It's very well managed dubstep. And the vocal features were another way of seeing just how big a change Zimmerman had made stylistically for 4x4=12, with 3 of them more than any album of his before, and each one full of purpose and personality, being a much more glaring, in-your-face part of their tracks than, say, Hailey Gibby's ethereal, distant vocal in I Remember with Cascade. You've also got the more overtly continuous tracks, because, quite frankly, would it be a deadmau5 album without them? The extremely cheeky Michael Woods tech remix of I Said, the suspenseful storyteller that is right this second, and the closer, Everything Before, a very warm, cozy track with psychedelic thriller elements to it, a fitting way to end the LP. But overall, 4x4=12 was deadmau5's first album of outright impactful storytelling bangers with character, flavour and proper mainstream appeal. Still continuous but noticeably heavier than before, momentous and statement making in a way past albums of his weren't. More enchanting, devilish, naughty, outgoing and daring, less shy, dreamy, understated and reserved compared to past projects. I was actually thinking of reviewing earlier deadmau5 albums, but they don't fit with the motive of this channel as well, what with it being a predominantly dark and heavy one. It just has a presence, character, bravado and energy like no other album of his did before, with its fair share of minimalistic stuff, but it was the belters that were at the forefront here, a transition for Zimmerman that really worked. Showing once again the extent to which he does the simple very well, it's little wonder he's considered a great when simplicity is so key to electronic music production. And in pairing that productive proficiency with his musical prowess in bass lines, chords and synths, this relative experiment for him was never not gonna be a winner. Each song so carefully crafted to the note, repeatedly breaking down and surging back up again, but it always works, exploring the darker territories not only of progressive and tech house, but also electro house and even trance at points. Smart, catchy, composed works of art, the attention to detail of which is unparalleled in electronic music. I could go into heaps more detail about why I think each individual song works, but then this review would genuinely be hours long. An album Zimmerman saw more as a collection of tracks in just bringing together what he was creating at that time, but it definitely feels like an album to the listener, with peaks and troughs, variation in style and mood, a story to each track, and the LP resultantly. A must listen, quite frankly, for those who are yet to check it out, to appreciate the sheer artistry on show from start to finish. And so that is that, guys, for another review on the Nawtystep channel, this time of the 5th studio album from deadmau5, released on Ultra Records, 4x4=12. Thank you very much, and as always, for tuning in. Be sure to leave a comment with your thoughts on 4 times 4 equals 12. Is this album a classic for you? Which tracks are your favourites from it? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, then be sure to give it a big old thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, hitting the notification bell along the way. Nawtystep is all about coverage of bass music across a wide variety of genres, from EP and album reviews to top 5s and top 10s, rave footage, opinion pieces and more. So again, if that's something that interests you, then consider subscribing. For some other classic reviews on the channel, check out the link next to my head somewhere. If you're not following Nawtystep across social media yet, links to all of those are in the description box down below. And lastly, if it's naughty, then you know guys, so be sure as always to keep it naughty and stay safe. And I shall see all of you legends in the next one. Peace out.